All right, if Active Directory is your world, you are going to want to pay close attention. We are breaking down Windows Server 2025 because it's bringing the single biggest architectural change to AD that we've seen in more than a decade.
You know that feeling? If you're an admin in a big, complex environment, you've definitely felt it. That invisible wall where AD just starts to creak and groan under the pressure. Maybe it's group memberships, maybe it's object sizes. But for years, those old limits have been a major bottleneck. Well, get ready because that wall is about to get knocked down.
So, here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with that old 8K wall and why it's been such a problem. Then we'll dive into the huge upgrades in Server 2025, but also talk about the catch, the rules and limits you absolutely need to know. After that, we'll map out your path to the new 32K world and finish up with a final verdict and a really important warning. Okay, first things first. To really get why Server 2025 is such a game changer, you have to understand the history here. We need to look at this one fundamental limitation that has defined Active Directory since, well, forever. It all boils down to this. Deep in the heart of Active Directory, its database engine has always used an 8 kilobyte page size. Think of it like a book where every single page can only hold 8 kilobytes of information, period. This one simple limit is what restricts how big an object can be, and this is the big one for most admins, how many groups a user can be in. This is the root cause of so many headaches. And that, right there, brings us to Windows Server 2025, because it's not just tapping on that old 8K wall. No, it is taking a sledgehammer to it. This is not some small incremental update. This is a massive foundational change.
And this right here, this is the main event. Server 2025 gives us a new, optional, 32 kilobyte database page size. That is a 4 times increase in the basic building block of the AD database. This means way bigger objects, and most importantly, a huge jump in how many values you can pack into an attribute. This is the headline feature for sure.
So what does this actually mean for you day to day? Well, with 32K pages, the new limit for attributes like group memberships jumps to around 3,200 values. If you've ever dealt with that classic token bloat nightmare where a user can't log in because they're in too many groups, you know this number is an absolute game changer. It gives you so much more room to breathe. But hold on, it's not just about a bigger database. Server 2025 is packed with other key upgrades. You get automated password management for service accounts, a huge security win. Security is cranked up by default, enforcing stronger encryption. On the performance side, AD can now properly use modern processors with NUMA support, letting it scale way past that old 64-core limit. There are even new tools to repair broken objects. It's a really comprehensive overhaul.
Okay, all of that sounds amazing, right? A bigger, faster, more secure Active Directory, what's not to love? But, and you knew there was a but coming, before you rush off to plan your upgrade, there is a very significant catch. Actually, there are a few of them.
And believe me, when they say there are rules, they mean it. To get that 32K database goodness, you have to go all in. First, every single domain controller in your entire forest has to be running Windows Server 2025. No exceptions. Second, you have to raise both your forest and domain functional levels up to 2025. And third, after all that work, it's still not on by default. You have to go in and manually enable the feature.
And here it is. This is probably the biggest gotcha of them all. You'd think you could just do an in-place upgrade on your current domain controllers, right? Wrong. You can't. An in-place upgrade will get you the new operating system, sure, but you will be stuck with the old 8K database. Let me repeat that. The only way to get the new 32K database is to build brand new Server 2025 machines and promote them to be domain controllers.
So, just to be absolutely crystal clear on this point, as long as you have even one older server, a 2022, a 2019, anything, running as a domain controller anywhere in your forest, your entire environment stays in 8K mode. You get none of the new database benefits until that last old server is gone.
And while we're talking about limits, there are a few other new guardrails to keep in mind. Even with all this new power, there are still some boundaries. For example, no user or computer can process more than 999 group policy objects. Each domain controller has a lifetime cap of creating just under 2 billion objects. And while the database page is 32K, no single object itself can actually be bigger than that. Phew. Okay,
So knowing all of those rules, how in the world do you actually get to this 32K future? Let's talk about a plan because this is going to need a very different approach than any upgrade you've done before.
Look, the single most important thing to get right is your mindset. You have to understand what this slide is saying. This is not a simple weekend upgrade project. It's a full-blown migration, and that means it requires serious planning, serious testing, and a very careful, staged rollout.
So here's a quick checklist to get you started. First, you have to plan and budget for deploying new domain controllers, not upgrading old ones. Second, you need to audit all your applications. The new mandatory LDAP signing is a great security feature, but it will break older insecure apps that rely on it. You have to find those first. And finally, just be ready for schema updates. The moment you add your first 2025 DC, your schema is getting extended.
All right, let's pull all of this together. What's the final verdict on Active Directory in Server 2025? And what about that warning I mentioned at the very beginning? Okay, here it is, a serious word of caution. There are now reports coming out about synchronization problems, specifically with very, very large groups. We're talking 10,000 members or more. This seems to be happening after applying some recent security updates. If you manage a large-scale environment, this is a developing situation you need to watch like a hawk. You know, this quote really nails it. Windows Server 2025 is, without a doubt, a huge leap forward for Active Directory's scale and security. It finally solves problems we've been wrestling with for over a decade. But, and it's a big but, getting there is not as simple as flipping a switch. It is a major project that requires a complete forest-wide commitment and some seriously meticulous planning. And so that really leaves the final question, and this one is for you to answer. When you weigh the massive benefits against the very real challenges of the migration and these potential early issues, is the power of a 32K Active Directory worth the effort for your organization right now?